This week we've got part 2 of our interview with Volfango Rizzi. Enjoy.
And thank Simona and Juliana for all their effort. And so it was great to have them. Of course, I know they could have been fitter maybe in another time of the year, but these were the present conditions, and they did well.
And I didn't get a chance to talk to Simona, but I did spend some time with Juliana, and she's a real live wire. She's a very interesting personality, and I can see she's not just in terms of her chess boxing, but she adds a lot to the sport in terms of her personality. And people want to buy into the fighters and know who they are, know what they're like. And I can see, she's active on social media and all that kind of stuff.
She's very good at social media. So yes.
And then the second fight, we had one of my favorite fighters, Danielle Rota.
Yes.
Daniel fought for us only a week earlier in London. So he really had a full schedule. And I have to admit, I missed the end of his bout. But do you want to just briefly take us through what happened with his with the second bout there?
Okay, yes, I have to say that as I was organizing and as it was all so busy during that day, I was there in the evening, but my concerns were more everything was running smoothly. So I wasn't, I didn't look at the fight so intently like I do when I am in London or Berlin.
Okay. Well, my recollection was that, so I had to leave because I needed to get Richard, who was fighting on the next fight, ready. But I saw the first round of chess, and I was thinking, Daniel has got this. Like he's way ahead on the chess. And then when I came back, it turns out he'd blown it, and I haven't watched the stream back because I don't understand, because he's a good chess player. He was ahead. He looked comfortable, and then it all got thrown away. So I don't know if there was some sort of, trap that he didn't spot and suddenly the game was over or what. But
so Daniele, yes, he fought, it wasn't even a week, it was only 6 days before in London. And where in London he lost his European title. In Vigevano, he defended his Italian title. And so in the end, he lost that too. His opponent was Marco Muccini, who is an Italian. We in Italy, besides elo rating, we have also categories, and he's like a first national category. So he's got an elo above 1800. So it's very, let's say, for being a chess boxer, he's a very good chess player. And so it wouldn't have been easy on the board for Daniele. In actual fact, a few days before the event, Daniele gave an interview for SPQR, which is the first world magazine on chess boxing, and where also from there you can watch the videos of the fights in Vigevano. And Daniele mentioned his strategy, and his strategy for the game, for the match, was going very fast at the beginning in chess, and then taking his time in the middle game, and putting pressure on boxing. Because for Marco Muccini, although if you look at him, he's got those very built muscles and so on, but it was the first time he was in the ring for anything. So he never fought before. And so I think Daniele would have done well sticking to the strategy. But in the end, instead, as you saw in the first round of chess, Daniele was, as usual, sprinting on chess, going very fast. And he didn't stop thinking later on, and he blundered. Yes, he did blunder.
Okay. Yeah.
And but probably he could have had one more boxing round, but he said to me there was no way, anyway, I was going to knock him out. So he resigned in chess. I think he could have just slowed down a bit and tried.
It's very similar to what happened in London, actually, isn't it? it's in London. He played very quickly, and then the boxing round, I think Cheyenne, his opponent, did well, and he was definitely on top. And then Danielle was still trying to move quickly, and he blundered his queen. He lost his queen, and then then he resigned.
Yeah, I remember he grabbed the pawn. He shouldn't have.
Yeah, it's such a shame because he's a great guy, and he had a very good chess boxing record. I think he'd won all his fights, maybe 4 or 5 fights, and then in 1 week he's lost 2 bouts. He's lost his perfect record. He's lost 2 belts. I mean, it's not a good week for the poor guy.
No, poor. Yes.
So,
but you know, if in London he was the one, let's say, less strong in boxing, in Vigevano, at least by experience, he was the one superior in boxing. So he should have tried just putting pressure on boxing. So going slow after the first round of chess, and then, you know, every time you come back from boxing, if you have suffered in boxing, your chess level diminishes. So he knew his opponent was strong in chess, so he should have put a lot of pressure in boxing and just slow down in the chess, but he didn't slow down in chess. Instead, he wanted to play fast, and he blundered, just playing fast. Yeah.
Well, commiserations to Danielle, but I'm sure we'll see him in the ring again. He's a tough cookie. I know he's had some injuries, and he's a great competitor, and he's well liked, certainly in London, and I'm sure in Italy as well. And I've no doubt he'll be back in the ring soon. And let's be honest, he put on a great show. You know, he might not have won, but it was compelling chess boxing, which is what we all want to see, isn't it?
Of course.
So next up, we've got our local fighter, Richard Frazer, who came from London, and we had a couple of chats about the bout afterwards on the night. And I'm sorry, I have to ask you this question because I will be going to training on Saturday, and a lot of people will be asking me the question, which is what happened with the boxing refereeing? The fight got stopped so early. It was a real shame for the spectacle. What did you think about that? Because obviously Richard, he managed to capture his opponent's queen in the last move of the chess round, and then we went into the boxing, and that only lasted about 30 seconds to a minute.
Where shall I start from? So first of all, I have to say that referee wasn't my first choice. We had another one that was the same we had in the first International Chessboxing show in 2015, in a place not far away from there, but it was in Vigevano. But then that gentleman, just like 3-4 days before, told me he had to work. They put him in like night shift and so on, so he couldn't come. And so luckily enough, for certain things I had plan B. For other things in chess boxing, we have so few athletes that sometimes there isn't a plan B. But at least for a referee, I had a plan B, and that was my plan B. What can I tell you? What I said in Vigevano, I have to say. Okay, luckily enough, because the Italian Boxing Federation is very jealous of his referees and athletes, once they are members of the Italian Boxing Federation, usually we cannot use them unless they are at the end of their career and they just stop fighting, and no one cares. So the reason we could have it is just because he finished the Italian Boxing Federation training to be a referee, which is a long, lengthy training, because I did myself for chess boxing. I went through that training mostly for chess boxing. So it's a lengthy, but he's officially not yet an Italian boxing referee. So it was at this right window we could get him. So I think one, of course, he needs to build a little bit of experience, but he was like the best of his course. So we had good recommendations of him. But secondly, like I told you in Vigevano, somehow he followed the way boxing referees in Italy are trained for like amateur boxing. Yeah, I think it was, the stoppage was premature. Okay, I think the third count, I really didn't see it. Before that, I know Richard got some heavy blows, but I don't know, after all, they were fighting with 16 ounces gloves.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Volfango. I mean, we struggle. We're really lucky. We've got Ronaldo Dominguez, who's been our referee for so many years and years and years. But I think we had one alternate referee when we went to Norwich. We had a show, which is my hometown. But you're right. Like every time if we have a show out of town or where Ronaldo can't make it, we talk to referees and they say, oh yeah, I can do that. And then they talk to their organizations and they won't let them do it. They're very protective over the referees and their boxers. And I don't know what it's like in Italy, but we have two boxing, or a bit like the chess box. We've got two governing bodies of boxing and they don't get on. And they won't let referees ref across, and they won't let fighters fight in one and then the other. It's really unhelpful. And actually, it doesn't help in terms of making the sport safe either, because you need referees with experience to show that you're doing the right thing and that you can be safe and they're safe in the ring. So I feel for you. I hear what you're saying, because we have exactly the same problem. And I think Richard really appreciated the fact that you sort of acknowledged that there was a problem and spoke to him about it afterwards, which was really good of you, I thought. But yeah, I think Richard seemed fine on the night, and then I was a little bit put out. And then I think the next day he kind of thought, oh, that was not really what I'd trained for. He wanted to have a proper chess boxing fight. But these things happen, and I think the rest of the show was great, and the ref was actually a lot better in the last bout. You must have been very pleased with that last bout, Volfango.
Yeah, it was in the end was the highlight of the evening. It was beautiful. So again, here I have to thank both fighters for training for this fight. Filippo Gubbini used to be a very, very elegant boxer. I know Ipe really liked him. So in fact, he invited him to Berlin. I remember he was also willing, Ipe, to give him a good compensation to go to Berlin, because he was considering the type of fighter he wanted to show potential investors what chess boxing was about. And so much so that Filippo Gubbini ended being the face and the body of in the logo of the first two world championships in a tournament format. They were held in India. But in actual fact, Filippo hasn't been fought in anything for about 5 years, for almost 5 years. And what he does is just maybe a game of indoor, or maybe of football on Friday evening. That's it. So he just came back to fight for this. So yeah. I have to thank him also to take the decision, having very little time to train. But he wanted to do, I think he got motivated. I think in recent years he had also some issues in his life, but for all of us, it's been 2 tough years, especially here in Italy. The government had very tough regulations for COVID, and it's been very tough time for everyone. So I was glad. Also through chess boxing, he found a new spirit and a new willingness to do things. So he came. He wasn't ready. He wasn't the same Filippo of when he was younger. Yeah, as you can. So he fights with his gloves down, and years ago he was able to not get punched by fighting like this, and instead this time round he got a few punches. So.
Yeah, that's always a danger, isn't it? When you fight like that, that it's it builds, doesn't it? You only have to miss. You only get hit once or twice, and then you're a little bit slower, and then you get hit more, and then the more you get hit, the slower you are. And we had a fighter called Jon Situ who fought Carl Ouch, and eventually Carl wore him down, and eventually he knocked him out. But I thought Filippo, he's a great guy as well. We actually had a chat with him the day after, and he obviously, I think he said he had 20 days to train. So it's incredible that he's obviously got a natural fitness and base level of technique, because he looked fantastic and he was able to get into the right frame of mind, the right shape, such a short space of time, and he put on a great show.
He's a man with experience. He had over 70 bouts of boxing.
Wow. Okay.
So he has experience.
Yeah.
His opponent had 31 bouts of boxing.
Yeah.
So I had less experience, but although he's not any longer boxing, he's a boxing trainer, so he works in gyms. So yeah, and
so
then
he was kind of already in shape by the sounds of it.
He was in shape. He trained for Sicily, because we were supposed to hold the chess boxing world championships in Sicily. So he was training for that, and then he started training for this earlier than Filippo. Anyway, so 1 or 2 weeks earlier.
Yeah, well, it was a great bout, great event, and congratulate you on it, and also thanks for inviting us. And it was a real pleasure to spend time with you and some of the fighters, and just in the beautiful city and the beautiful country. So it was I wish we could have chess boxing events like that every weekend. It would be great.
Yeah, I would like to come along too. I wouldn't like to organize them, but just come along and enjoy.
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, it's probably this. In fact, it's the only chess boxing event, apart from the ones I went to before I teamed up with Tim, where I haven't been working. I went to the Helsinki event, but I was running the chessboard, and yeah, it was actually it was really, really nice. So yeah, hopefully you'll come to a London event where you can just relax, bring your wife, enjoy some nice cold beer, and not have to worry about anything. That would be great, wouldn't it?
Would be wonderful. So I have to thank both fighters that fought until the 11th round. That has been the only second time in the Italian history we had a fight to the 11th round. So it's been exciting for everyone.
And what does Italian chess boxing look like to you going forward? What have you got? Any more plans? Have you got any ideas about how you might want to take the sport forward?
Well, I'm not like on me. In actual fact, you see, I had stopped working mostly on the Italian chess boxing in 2017, and then last year I saw there were some people, mostly in Sicily, wanting to do something with chess boxing. So we refounded the Italian Chess Boxing Federation just at the end of September officially. And so I'm trying to do something, but I would like to leave it to young people. Young people coming along and taking it forward. But I would like to do some more events of the International Chessboxing show of this type, of events. Like they are like top events of this kind in Italy. Then we can have like regional events and so on. But I would like these bigger international events.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be very hard to find a venue and a setting that's going to top that one, but but I think you're right. I think the venue is, but I think the difficulty you had was that obviously it was a crowd who were there who were just in the city. They were there for the chess tournament, so they weren't necessarily a chess boxing crowd. So yeah, they perhaps didn't understand the nuances of what was going on in the ring. But yeah, and how do you see, obviously you've been involved in world chess boxing for a long, long time, and I've got involved more recently. How do you see that progressing? Where do you see that going? I know that's another difficult question, an impossible question for you.
A very tough question. Okay, so first of all, we have to explain what are the issues of international chess boxing, but mostly it's like London, so the English movement has always been like, well, not always, but since 2013, probably 2013, when Ipe and the team broke. Then they've been like two separate entities. So we would like to have the English into the World Federation, let's call it like that, without putting names. But the issue has been that after the death of Ipe, now there is like only one man in charge of the whole international federation. There isn't like a board. There is only one person. And I know from some sides there are some critiques on his work. We have to say that he's been also unlucky, because there have been 2 unlucky years with this pandemic situation. So it happened that we couldn't have had, like we were doing before, like an annual general meeting. So we haven't had elections. So as he was the vice president, also because people elected him during like a Zoom call after the death of Ipe, he ended being president. So yeah, some people say they would like a president that is more open to everybody's views, a president that follows the rules of the statute, and maybe a president that is more able to reach out to find an agreement with other parties. But I think that there is mostly like a cultural difference between like some Asian countries and some European countries or Western countries. To end, I wouldn't be able to say where we would end up. I don't know if he's going to run for elections, if he wants to run for elections, if there will be anyone running against him. So I don't have any clues, but in November this year, we will know.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think having spent some time trying to bring the sport together myself, it does feel like we obviously there's a language barrier, but I think it does feel like culturally, I think the expectations of what their governing body should do and how it should behave are quite different. And I'm not sure it's necessarily going to be reconcilable. And it does feel that we're almost further away now than we were, a couple of years ago. And such an unfortunate passing when Ipe passed, but I guess the silver lining of that tragedy was that perhaps the sport would come together.
Yes.
And it doesn't seem to be any closer now than it was then. So it is quite sad. And I think as always we see that we should be working together under one entity, but that's not at any cost. I think we do need to see something that's fair, and we want to know that everyone's going to be treated fairly, and that's important in any organization, let alone a world governing body. But we shall see. I think the real there is a silver lining in the sense that we are working together. We've been working with Helsinki. We went out to the Paris event before Ipe passed, and we hope to go out again. And we invited them to one of our London events. So I think there's definitely some green shoots. We just need to, like anything, perhaps it's just about relationships. Perhaps we just need to work together, spend time together, and build trust between each other.
I was at the last World Championship in Turkey, the World Championship in tournament format. Yeah, we had it in Turkey at the end of 2019, and yeah, one of the highlights of being there is this one. Just been together for a few days, and so it's like a big, large family meeting, and and there you can build good relationships, and so we came out with the good feelings of friendship and collaboration. But yeah, things have changed since, but I'm sure during another of this type of World Championship we would find the same feelings. But yeah, I know there are some people that say no, the head of the World Chess Boxing have to change. And we really run the risk if there is no change that the world of chess boxing will split into two.
I think it would be a shame. I think also, the way, like certainly we in the UK, and I think quite a lot of Western countries would see a governing body would be that you wouldn't have one person who called the shots. You might have a president who made sure that the organization was run properly, but you'd have a board of people that would be working together and voting on things rather than just one person deciding what was going to happen. And I'm not sure that everybody in world chess boxing has the same view. I think, some people want to just see one person who has control over everything. But I'm not sure that's something we want to be part of. So it's a difficult one. But anyway, Volfango, I'm going to change the tone. I'm going to ask you one question before we wrap up. Try and raise the tone a little bit. So this is a question that we ask everyone on the podcast. I don't know, hopefully you listen to a few podcasts, you might be prepared for the question, but what is your favorite chocolate bar?
My favorite chocolate bar is an Italian chocolate bar called Cioccory.
Cioccory. What does that taste like? What's it made of?
It's like milk chocolate, but not too much milk, and with inside like rice.
Rice? You have rice in chocolate bars?
No, like Rice Krispies.
I like puffed rice. Okay, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's loads of sugar in it, I guess.
There is not too much, but yeah, there is.
Okay, that sounds quite nice, actually. Yeah, I quite like that. I used to love Rice Krispies. Have you ever heard of them? They're like a British.
Yes.
It's like puffed rice covered in sugar. I mean, it's really unhealthy. But as a child, it was just like, this is heaven.
Yeah, I was eating them as a child too.
Yeah. Well, have you got anything else to say, Volfango? Any shout outs, anything you'd like to communicate with the chessboxing world before we wrap up?
I'm just glad you British came down to Vigevano, and I'm looking forward coming to you. And I'm glad that our collaboration that was probably stronger some years ago has rejuvenated. So
yeah, absolutely. And we've got some shows coming up in the chessboxing world. I believe there's a show coming up in Berlin in August.
Yes.
There's a show coming up in Paris in October, and then we're planning a show in December. So once we have details of those, obviously we'll post them on our social media channels. And yeah, I know that our community, there's lots of people who want to come out, to Berlin, come out to Paris, and maybe that's the way forward. We just spend time together, enjoy the sport we love, have a beer, have a chat, and everything else will come after that. Maybe that's the way forward. But yeah, thanks very much, Volfango. Thank you for coming on the podcast, but also for all the work and effort you put into making such a great show last weekend.
You're very welcome, Gavin. And I'm sorry if Richard might be a bit down, but I'm sure we can give him a rematch either in London or somewhere else.
Yeah, don't worry. He's a big boy. He'll be fine. Okay, thanks very much, Volfango.
Thanks, Gavin.
Cheers.
Bye, everyone.
And that's it for this week. Don't forget you can buy tickets for our next event on the 10th of December at chessboxingnation.com. And you can follow us on YouTube at youtube.com/chessboxing.